All right, I feel like we've given folks a fair amount of time to get themselves set up. So we'll just keep the juiciest bits for midway through. Thanks again for coming today, everyone. We're thrilled to have you here. I'm so excited to see these faces in front of me. I'm Colleen Brown. I'm an ambassador and account exec at Savvy since August. And this is a role that beautifully blends for me my previous experiences as a member of the legal community, most recently as a legal administrator, and as an educator, mostly in the Bronx, mostly more fun than being a legal administrator, but also recently as an executive coach. I think of Savvy as a people company. We aim to empower people to grow their skills. And in that vein, we've assembled a dynamic group of legal professionals today to talk about growing our network, which is at once an incredibly valuable resource for us in our career and also a skill that anyone can develop and maximize. So we assembled some of our favorites here today to talk about what networking means to them and to talk about sort of brass tacks about how to network and how to maximize the time you're spending with your network. So with that, I'm going to hand over the mic, so to speak, to our panelists to introduce themselves. And if you'll just give everybody your name, your role, and which company you're with. And Cesar, can we start with you since you hate quiet?
Well, thank you. Cesar Rodriguez with Kraft and Kennedy. I am the strategic relationship manager here. Have been since 2020.
Great.
Hi,
Christine?
everyone. I'm Christine Becker. I am a membership coordinator at ILTA, the International Legal Technology Association.
Qeyana?
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Qeyana Hart. I am the attorney hiring coordinator at Alston and Bird. I've been in the legal industry for over 15 years, and I identify as an extrovert, introvert person. So talk more about that a little later.
That's right. A little crumble there. Chris?
Nice. Yes, I am Chris Mendenhall. I am the executive director and legal administrator for the law firm of Milgrom and Daskam.
Thanks everyone for being here. We appreciate how valuable your time is. Having been in your seat, I recognize just how much your day shrinks into other people's needs. So we really appreciate your spending this time here with us today. So let's just start off by talking about what networking means to you. What's important about it for you? And I'm a creature of habit, so I'm just going to keep picking on Cesar to go first.
No, I appreciate it, and appreciating being a part of this great group. It's an honor to be with all of you. So thank you for that and the invitation. Networking to me, when you asked me this, everyone asked me this a while ago, I was like, I don't really know, but this is what came off top of mind it's when an individual creates an opportunity with someone else to connect. So it's finding that one piece of connection that lets you have, a new flow of traffic to communicate with someone else. I think that's just pretty spot on for me. It's like you meet so many people out there in this day and age. It's like, imagine all the one-off connections you've made that then have branched off to millions from there.
Absolutely. Ladies, what about you?
Yeah. Cesar, you use the word connect there, and I just love that. And this is why I love this topic and I love talking about networking, because I truly think that it's really about getting to know people. And it's could be a perfect stranger, but it's someone that you can ultimately share a common ground with. Maybe you have a common role and just in a different organization, and you just build on that. And it can be, again, like I said, it could be a stranger, or that you're just meeting at an event, or it could be somebody in your organization. And there's no question this can be super scary and actually really intimidating, but I think it's extremely rewarding. And you start to do a little bit at a time, and you get a mass effect. And over time, it'll just make such a difference. Doesn't take much. It's just little bits here and there. And you'll get that cumulative effect.
Yeah, I would agree with Christine. Connecting with folks with a similar background or maybe similar goals, again, is very helpful and key when you're trying to advance in your career or in other organizations. Um, I feel like it's important because, again, you never know how connecting with someone may lead you to your next job, to your next, um, outside of legal industry. I'm always thinking about other areas, but someone who can refer you to your next best doctor or the next best recipe. So be it big or small, same industry or not, just networking with folks, same similar backgrounds, same similar goals is great. And as Christine said, it could be rewarding down the line.
Yeah, I'd agree with all of that. To me, it's just about meeting new people and having those resources of people to ask questions of and to be friends with, people to talk to, just, that might end up being clients. They might not. They might just be connections that lead to other connections. So it's all worthwhile.
I think the beautiful part is you don't have to be an extrovert to be good at networking.
Right. Which actually leads me to a question. I have a question for the audience, and you can use the questions tab in the webinar software to answer for us. But so on a scale of 1 to 5, how much anxiety swells up in you when you think of networking? And as you're answering that, I'm going to hand the mic back to Caesar. I think I cut him off. You usually come prepared with a pretty good shtick. So what do you have for me today?
There's so much, I think, and I think the biggest takeaways I want and hope people can get out of this is we've already kind of touched on it just with the introductions on what we think networking is, and it's start small. You don't have to get to know someone right off the bat and get the full life story. Now, mind you, there are people out there that'll tell you their full life story just on the first get-go, but I take those as a grain of appreciation that someone's willing to open up and share all that. We have some talkers out there, but then we have people that are quiet too. And I think in my little time in the corporate America world or working outside of college, I've appreciated knowing someone that's super extrovert, equally knowing someone that's super introvert, but knowing so much of each of them independently, which is kind of cool to see. It's like some people like to share in small doses. Some will open the highways and give you the floodgates off the rip.
And do you have you got any special tricks in your toolbox that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? Like you seem like a natural, so I don't know if this makes you nervous anymore. We're seeing in the comments, by the way, that most folks are in the 3 zone of anxiety, which I would not say is sort of average so much as, if you're a 3 on anxiety, that's actually fairly high. So
that's good. I mean, that means you're at least there. You're open to the interaction.
You're live. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, one is like I'm sitting in the back wall and I'm sneaking out the minute everyone leaves. So tips and tricks. Go ahead, sorry.
Caesar. I was just going to say they have enough knowledge of how important it is to be nervous. That's awesome.
Listen, I think the biggest thing too is to know that someone can be nervous on the other side too. So I think it's so cool when 2 nervous people interacted and then it's like, oh, sigh relief. Tips and tricks, Colleen. I think over time people forget to revert back to their alma maters. That's a good way to get your foot through the door. I think it's a good place to start, especially if you're brand new to an industry. I'll give an example. My high school down in Miami, Florida, they have a huge connection of networks. And I think it was just late last year, early this year, I found out that we have this whole WhatsApp group and we have this whole Discord channel that you can tap respected people for that industry, technology, business, accounting, legal is one, and then contracting, because there's big in construction down there as well. So start small. You don't have to go find this huge thing. And I think the other one too is your peers are great resources. So if someone's in your same role, or you know someone that's in a similar role, say, hey, where do you hang out professionally? Like where can I dip my toe in to just get a feel of what to start looking for? And I mean, it's just, and then go from there. Make one friend each time you do this thing. Make two. Next thing you know, you got a group, and then it just would network from there.
So I'm gonna brass tacks you because I'm a mom in a house full of ADHD. So we really like to be very specific. So you found your high school listserv, and you're trolling around, you're reading it. At least that's what I would do. I would definitely secretly read things for a while. How do you dip your toe in? Like, how do you introduce yourself? Like, how do you pull yourself into that community?
Good question. So the way I went about it was each one of the respective groups have a facilitator. So start there. Say, hey, facilitator, I'm class of insert this number here, and then say, I'm new to this space. I thought I'd, connect with the people here. And that's a great way for me. I met, the facilitator and I saw that some of the guys from my class were there. So it makes it a lot easier to roll into. You start making connections there, and it just rolls on from there. But start with the facilitator, whoever's running that group. I mean, everyone, I don't think there's a school out there that does not have an alumni association.
That's a great idea. That's something that hadn't occurred to me, so I've already picked up something today. And what about, let's talk a little bit more specifically to legal. How would you recommend folks get started if they're trying to, if they are on the 3 or the 5 on the anxiety scale of how does one network, where can I get started? What might you recommend?
So you're not alone, and try to go into all this stuff with that mindset. You're not alone. Everyone starts in I don't know anybody in this space. I didn't know anybody in this space when I started working with Kraft Kennedy. So I am an extrovert, so I dove head into everyone's space. But maybe I'm part of this practice group, and I'm just going to hang out with this one person that helped me with onboarding and is part of my group. And okay, talk to them. You grow there. Okay, let me find out what other groups do. Expand from there, and now you're getting to know what we do internally. It would give me a little confidence now to step outside a little bit and say, let me put my little toe in the cold water and see how I handle it. And then you can start building from there. There's great associations like the ALA and ILTA that if you're brand new, I think if you put one post on a thread saying, I'm brand new to legal, can someone help me out? You'll get a million responses. Call me, let me help you out. Let's meet up for coffee. We're very welcoming people. At least these associations are. So start in your backyard and grow out to the national level. And once that anxiety level goes down and down, then maybe back to a 3 if you're a 5, or if you're a 3 to a 2 or a 1. But that's where I would start. I mean, you got great resources out there. It's, you have friends too that may be in the space. Don't be afraid to tap them and go to a networking event with a familiar face. I think people don't use that as much. People go out with a friend, right? To a bar or a club or a place that you've never been to. Go with a familiar face. Do the same professionally, right? Let me go, if I'm on office admin, let me find another office admin that I know. Let's go do this thing. I think it shows you'll grow a little bit more internally and then externally as well.
Yep. I was just thinking the buddy system as you were talking, and Christine, I feel like this is just like the most perfect segue, because thinking of the buddy system made me think of ILTA and your system. Yeah. So I know I'm a little out of order here, but you want to sort of roam around in that for me?
Yeah, no, exactly. So Caesar's right. Associations are on a great resource. I I think volunteering is such an amazing opportunity. So not just joining that association and not just attending a webinar, that's awesome, that's amazing. We love that you're here today. Engage in the chat, get to know people, notice names that you're seeing attending and look them up on LinkedIn. But I just think volunteering is that little special sauce that is so awesome for people. It really gets you to meet new people, and it can be, honestly, it doesn't have to be illegal. It could be regarding any cause that you want. It could be something in your community. It could be an association like ILTA or ALA, but it could be your church or just within your something that interests you, a sport. It puts you in touch with new people. It broadens your perspective. And as you get to know more people, you're also going to be more empathetic for people who are doing similar jobs as you in different similar roles, but maybe a different organization. You can't lose. And I just think that putting yourself out there, volunteering, and like Caesar said, just say, hey, I'm new. I've never done this before. I want to get involved. I don't really know how. I can't tell you how many volunteers have come to me at ILTA and said that. And I love it. Like, nobody cares. It's very welcoming, like, you all mentioned, and we will embrace you, certainly within our industry. But there's so many more opportunities out there as well. So like you said about buddy program, we do that buddy program for our big conference, but there's other examples. I attend a lot of events in the course of a year, not just ours, but other people's. And I was at one, and I'm very familiar with walking into a room full of strangers, but I was having at one event, I was just having a day. I was in my own head, and I was feeling nervous about walking in, and this particular practice area was just something I didn't feel super confident in. And I saw on the agenda there was a newcomer's breakfast, or a first timer's breakfast, I think they called it. And so I was like, I got to go to this because I'm feeling alone. So I go to try and find this breakfast. I get completely lost. I'm in the hallway of some convention center. And sure enough, I find another person, two more people who are just as lost as I am. So we do the whole, are you trying to find room such and such? I'm trying to find room such and such. We all help each other find the breakfast. We sit together at breakfast. People come in, it's a newcomer's breakfast, so they're all coming to get to know you. But we just hit it off. We just bonded over our getting lost in the hallway. And we ended up being like conference buddies with each other for the whole conference. We would like check, what session do you want to go to? Well, I'm going to go to this. And do you want to have lunch together? And it just was so great. And, I would have never met those people otherwise. Probably if I had gone through that whole weekend or 3 days, I would have never probably come across them. But it was just put yourself out there, go check out things on the agenda if you're going to an event, and just take advantage of opportunities like that. I think you'll reap the rewards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking a lot as you're speaking, Christine, about how it does really require a bit of a leap into vulnerability.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. And you know what? It's your motive for going into this is really obvious to the other people. So just take stock of what are you trying to do. And remember, like, we're just trying to get to know people. We're just finding a common ground with people. So if you go into it with, like an approach of, well, what can you do for me? That's red flags. People are going to pick up on that. People are going to be like, back away from you and just not very open with you. But have the vulnerability to just try and get to know people, find out what they do, what is their role. Maybe you're going to be surprised that your role overlaps with their role, or you're totally different practice areas, but you actually maybe use the same technology and you could give each other tips. Like, it could be something so little, but you just open that door of conversation genuinely. And yeah, imposter syndrome will take over, absolutely. You does require vulnerability, but you know what? You will just take that first step. And like Caesar said, the more times you do it, your anxiety level will go down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Do you have some examples of, you talked a little bit more about the red flags of what's in it for me. This might be a good space to talk about that. maybe delicate, maybe not, maybe misunderstood balance between practitioners and vendors,
Oh yeah.
and how to, I guess, maybe contextualize that for folks, and maybe just give your perspective on that, because you are sort of in a unique role in that you are sort of the other for everyone.
I'm in the middle, right? At ILTA, we love our business partners and our members equally, and we need both, and we want both to have a great experience at one of our events. And we're very clear with our expectations, but when you're in an exhibit hall at an event, let's say a conference, you know, it's not, some people think if I walk into an exhibit hall, they're just going to be at me to sell stuff, and they're going to be all over me, and I don't have authority. I can't buy a software here, and people get really nervous and intimidated. And we really try and help with our newcomers, like our first timers to conferences, and just our members in general. And they are people, just like you. They just want to, make a connection and get to know you. Maybe you're not, and you can openly say, hey, you know what? I'm here for my first time. I don't have the ability to buy anything from software today or make any decisions, but I'd love to pass your name on to my boss when I get back. That's totally fine. And our business partners tell us, we really just want to make a connection with the person, because 6 months from now, when your law firm suddenly says, or your organization suddenly says, we're doing this upgrade, or we need a DMS or an LMS, all of a sudden you're going to remember that really cool person that you talked to at ILTACon or wherever, and that matters more than what demo you watched. And so being open and honest with people, but just get to know them. I have the funnest conversations walking through exhibit halls with the vendors and the business partners at anybody's event, not just ours. They're long days for them, and they have to be on for many, many hours. Sometimes they're just tired, and you just have a connection over, like, it's 3 o'clock and I am having like an energy crash. How are you feeling? And we can just have a great little laugh together. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you have a piece of chocolate together, and, it's a really great opportunity to just make connections and get to know people. And don't worry or put pressure on yourself about the fact that you're going to be sold to.
Great. Caesar, you're a vendor. You're on the dark side. Do you want to, do you have anything to say, sort of share a vendor perspective on that? I'm sure you agree 100% with everything that Christine just said. I just want to give you a chance to talk from the dark side.
So I do agree 100% with Christine. And if there's anything to add, I want to emphasize something that she said. We're people at the end of the day. And even if you're not a first timer to a conference, I think from a business partner, vendor, whatever title you want to, exhibitor, we look at these expos or conferences as a reason to meet with people that are, number one, interested in finding out what's out there, because there is a lot and it changes every day, even more now with technology specifically. So we just want to engage. This is a great place to just make new connections. We'll always have, not will always, but I feel like we'll always have the old connections that we've always had and continue to maintain and rebuild. But any good company wants to expand their connection to let everyone else know what value we've added to everyone we've worked with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're new, this is a great place for you to start, just to get yourself familiarized what's in your space.
Mm-hmm.
If you came from finance and now you're in legal, well, there's some similarities, but there are also some differences in products and services that you use at the firm. This is a great place. Hey, and I think we use your LMS at the office. It's great to see the faces to the people that I use on a regular basis. Like, that's a great place for expo halls. And it's, for me, it's always a sign of appreciation. It's like, thank you for even considering Kraft Kennedy and what we've been able to do for you and your firm. I meet several people from several firms sometimes, because one person will leave one firm to go to another. And it's cool to see that change and people
Yeah.
bounce from firm to firm, and they still remember you. Because at the end of the day, I'm Caesar. I'm a person, and if I made a good connection, and you said, you know what, I really don't know much about Kraft Canada, but Caesar he's a good guy. It's
Yeah, it seems to me, I've been on both sides of the divide, and it seems to me that with, I think the connection, in addition to that vulnerability that really comes through for me, and particularly as a born introvert, Qeyana, who was trained to be an extrovert by an extrovert, that vulnerability piece is a hurdle, right? And so helping to get through that hurdle was useful for me in terms of opening up a community, and also the idea of authenticity, of we're making human connections together, and we may or may not be able to help each other out in the future. And so that authenticity piece sticks with me. Qeyana, can I ping you, and how does that ring to you?
Yeah, for me, I can, yes. My computer was muted for a second. Yeah, for me, totally agree. Going back to what you were saying about being born naturally as an introvert and kind of trained into being an extrovert. I'll tell people all the time when I say, oh, I'm an introvert, they say, no, you're not. I see you do this, that. I'm like, it's for my job. And I almost feel like I'm acting, but not really, because those connections I do reach out to folks and mix and mingle with, it is genuine. I learn what I'm comfortable with doing. An example of going to an event, or even, and these are events that I know people, events that I'm very familiar with the setup and the crowd, I still take a moment to just say, smile, hi, get myself together, kind of feel the room, and then where do I want to start? Do I start with, I forgot to mention earlier, I'm also on the board for the Association of Legal Administrators, Capital Chapter. So right there alone, that lets you know I've had to network and put myself out there to hold this position, not only once, but twice. So going back to when I first joined the organization, I did that, going into the room, kind of sat by myself, see who was on there, check out which crowd is doing this in this circle. And once I finally, got the courage, I would go, someone maybe getting a drink. Oh, what are you drinking? Oh, I like Pepsi too. And that kind of starts the conversation. Or what's in that? Do you know? And, may joke about what's in the food and something like that. And, oh, I'm Qeyana.
I think your connection's bad. You cut out after Pepsi.
How about now? Is that better?
Yes.
I probably shouldn't say Pepsi because Coke is one of our clients. So
we're not going to tell on you.
The firm muted me. Sorry.
Totally. Big Brother's watching.
But yes, just kind of connecting with someone maybe in a buffet line, or those kind of making it once you're comfortable, something that's comfortable for you, that kind of break the ice and get to going. And I've been in a situation, Christine, I think you mentioned, sitting there and someone noticed me and he said, hey, are you new? I said, yeah. They said, oh, come sit with me. And they introduced me to several folks. And then they talked about what they do. And, oh, I've been here before. So it was a similar background. And, so the next event, I see them again and I wave and I said, hey, and they introduced me to more folks. So now that I'm comfortable, I do the same thing. I identify like, hey, kind of more mindful of that when I see someone sitting by themselves, then I just like, hi, can I interrupt? What's your name? I'm da 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 da. And I will then introduce them to the board members or those who are in charge, and then go from there. Oh, you work in your legal secretary manager. Let me introduce you to this other legal secretary manager. Or, you're interested in IT. let me introduce you to this gentleman or, lady in this industry over here. So again, I may not stick around for the conversation, but at least I'm comfortable in my own self to introduce someone who's new to someone, and as they make those connections. So,
That's such a great gift. That's such a great gift, Qeyana. It's like paying it forward, right? Because you remember that feeling of vulnerability, and that's great to help break the ice. And for those of you who don't know, Qeyana and I, we kind of grew up in this industry together, I might say. We were babies together. And it has been really interesting just to be able to watch the ebbs and flows of networking and the legal industry. And again, I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, but networking in a digital space in addition to a physical space, and that's a whole nother layer of challenge. As an exec with a local ALA chapter, what have you seen to be successful in terms of keeping your network alive when there are fewer events?
So I think, and I'm also in another organization, we have these smaller mentor circles. I joined the mentor circle, this particular organization. I did not have the longevity like I do with ALA. So the folks in that organization I knew were previous managers and maybe one or two folks from the law school because I'm in recruiting. So here I am now starting all over again. Been in the industry over 15 years. A couple of years ago, was like, wow, I got to meet and network with a whole different group of folks. Right. And so they had a mentor circle. And I said, you know what, I'm going to jump on this. I probably don't have the time to, break away for the mentor part when they meet up, but at least there's some emails, there's some communications. And because of COVID, we pivot to virtual. So we were able to meet more virtually and just kind of connect, and it was really, really great. And then from there, switching up the circles. So, maybe form your own circle or see if there's other circles. With ALA, we have communities, and the communities are broken into, particular interests or specialties within the law firm. I attend all of them. I have nothing to do with managing a firm, but sometimes those meetings can be very helpful on the HR side because someone may bring up something when we're having an open table that's related to HR and recruiting. The same thing with legal operations. I started out in that area, have a lot of knowledge and things I remember, but I still attend to see, what's new, what's trending, because again, those conversations kind of pivot, and everyone who's attending, just like myself, is not a manager over facilities or operations. They are office administrators, they are HR managers, they are other folks who, again, just kind of depending on their firm, may be smaller and they're handling multiple roles. So just taking advantage of opportunities of those type of smaller networks have been very helpful with helping me in my career in advancing and just staying on top of what's new and trending in our industry.
I think it's a really good call out that you mentioned, that you you broaden your scope and the energy you're spending in networking beyond your specific practice area right now, and you take advantage of the opportunity to learn in all these other spaces. So I really appreciate you bringing that out. I think that's a really important key too. Chris, you ready for us? You've been waiting very patiently over there. You and Qeyana, speaking of shared connections, though you haven't met before today, you've got a lot in common. And I know the ELA has been really a big piece of your networking journey too. Can you tell us a little bit more?
I actually plan to talk about that, but I'm going to start somewhere else if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that was a lot of really great information and advice. You guys are clearly pros, so thank you for sharing. I would like to share a personal story that can illustrate that this stuff can actually be a lot of fun. So about 6 years ago, I was running my own business and most of it was remote work. And I realized that if I can work, remotely, why not do it from somewhere really fun and interesting? So I decided to take my work on the road and work in Florence, Italy for a full year.
Okay.
Yeah. And my plan was to really see what it was like to live there, to get to know my neighbors, maybe do some volunteer work, maybe even get a little side job at a coffee shop to try to meet people and have some people to hang out with. Well, it was 20 days before I was set to leave that the Italian consulate that gave me the final rejection on my visa and told me I cannot stay for a full year. I can only stay for 90 days. And then I was going to have to bounce around to other countries for the rest of that year. So now my plan, evaporated, and my biggest fear became, how am I going to meet people? I'm surely just going to be alone and lonely this whole year, because I felt like it's hard to meet new people that develop into friendships as an adult. And especially heading off to countries where I don't speak the language fluently, and I can only stay for 3 months at a time, and I'm not going to be doing something regular where I might even have the chance to meet somebody more than once. So I had no idea how I was going to meet anybody. I was kind of steeling myself for just a very lonely year, but I was also determined not to let that happen. And it turns out that that year, my social life was busier and richer and more interesting than it has ever been at any time in my life. So here's what I did. I found people and organizations and activities that I was interested in, and I showed up, and I made a point of sitting down next to people I don't know. Of course, I didn't know anybody, so that was pretty easy. And I smiled a lot, and I asked a lot of questions. And somehow, simple as that sounds, that seemed to work pretty well. And those kinds of little conversations just kind of grew into bigger things. A couple little stories. I found myself eavesdropping on conversations on like nearby tables, and just hoping for some sort of little opening that maybe I could connect with somebody somewhere. And one of those ended up being a couple who ended up being from Denver, where I'm from. And we did several day trips together, and then we've remained friends here in Denver. And she actually did my landscaping for me about a year ago. There was another guy I met in a coffee shop after I overheard him speaking English, and he ended up inviting me to lunch with his wife and 2 other people, who those other people invited me to their house for dinner and then out to a classical music concert. And then that led to a connection to another place to stay in another country. And the whole year was that way. Just those little bits of, putting yourself out there, having that courage to start a conversation, and things just mushroomed. And you might think, well, she must have been a big social butterfly, and this comes easily for her. But this was a big personal growth opportunity for me. I had never traveled anywhere by myself before, and I have probably spent an embarrassing number of moments in the bathroom at social events where I needed to escape because I didn't know how to get into a conversation or how to get out of a conversation, and just needed to leave. So I don't have any superpowers that anybody else doesn't have. So back here in the US now, working for the law firm Milgrom and Daskam. We're kind of a unique firm in that we are a 1% for the Planet business member. We're a certified B Corporation. I am on our corporate social responsibility committee, and all 3 of those connections provide numerous opportunities for happy hours and networking events and business showcases and educational events. And I'm lucky that I get to go to those and participate in those and meet new people that way. And if your own company or firm doesn't, have those same opportunities, or your role doesn't, mesh with your attending them, I would recommend seeing what sort of personal or professional opportunities you can create for yourself. Maybe it's joining Toastmasters and working on your public speaking skills, or volunteering. Christine talked a lot about volunteering at, it could just be a charity that has nothing to do with your business, but it's a way to meet people. Co-working spaces are a great way to meet new people. If you work remotely, you might consider, every now and then working in a co-working space. A lot of them have drop-in rates, and those those are a great way to get to meet new people. I did a lot of those in Europe as well. For me, as with Qeyana, the Mile High chapter of the Association of Legal Administrators has been really key for me. Honestly, we only joined ALA because we got a discount on our malpractice insurance for having a member. So I was the token member, but I wanted to participate because my position is pretty siloed in my firm. I mean, we had at the time about 13 lawyers and me, and I didn't have people to ask questions of, or to, that were speaking my legal language. And everybody's English, but it's having the same sort of people who are doing what I'm doing. And so that made a huge difference. The first event that I went to was a holiday party, and I sat next to the chapter president and somehow found myself volunteered to be a co-chair for the professional development committee. And then next year I chaired that committee, and this year I'm on the board of directors as secretary. And even though I might not have chosen that path, I am very grateful because those leadership positions have forced me, but also provided opportunity to really engage and have reason to talk to people at all the events that we have. I mean, to show up at the events and participate in them and talk to people and get to know people. And that has been really great for me. And what I do at all those things, I mean, you can have a networking event every night of the week, and if you show up and sit in your little corner, nothing is going to change, as Qeyana was saying. But it's that same thing. You sit down next to somebody you don't know, you smile, you ask a lot of questions, and one thing leads to another. I kind of feel that networking has kind of become synonymous with selling, and I don't think that's what it's all about. But I think we're all familiar with these networking events where there's the guy, with his 30 business cards that he's got to pass out, and he's working the room and giving his same spiel to every single person, and you hear it over and over and over again. But by gosh, he's giving out his 30 cards and he's networked. And that just does nothing for me. To me, as these folks have said, it's about meeting somebody new, learning something new about a person or an industry or a role or a company that you didn't know before. And in the words of Ted Lasso, you just need to be curious.
Yes,
and
love
you
it.
find that, yeah, and then you go to the follow-up events, and then you, as Qeyana said, then this person, and that might lead to a referred connection, and any one of these might lead to a really nice business relationship. And some of them might even lead to friendships. And I think if that's what you're focused on, then it's real. There's really nothing to be afraid of. It's just fun. So my advice is just to get out there and have fun with it.
That's great. I really love the reframing because you're so right that networking it's like a dirty word, right? Like vendor, network, vendor, and at the end of the day, I wasn't networking from the inside of a law firm, and I'm certainly not networking now from the inside of a vendor with the idea of selling something. It is really about, for me, it's the human connection and sort of growing a community around me that will help prop me up. One of the the older I get and the older my children get, the less advice I give. And one of the pieces that sort of survives for me is that you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. And in law firms, you do need to be smart. Let me be clear. Law firms are special places. We're all special people, and perfection is real. And what I discovered is I don't actually have to know all of the answers if I know people who will take my call and help me to answer that question. And so that sort of is a guiding principle for me. Like, I don't need to learn everything. First of all, that's impossible, right? But I do want to know the people who know what's going on in that space right now. So I think that's a really good call out, Chris. I, as I think it's probably clear at this point, am a brass tacks person. So I'm going to bring us back to the tactical. One of the mistakes that I made in my early years in my professional career is I was really gung-ho and I was attending all those events, just like Qeyana. I was showing up at every committee meeting, I was going. And I would get back to my desk and feel like, okay, I just did that. And then I got stuck on what to do next. So we've spent a fair amount of time talking about how to put yourself out there, right? Like how to actually make the connection. So anybody got thoughts on what to do next? And that could be simply actually tactical. What email would you send to someone that you met at an event that week? Or so what do you find is useful in terms of following up so that you actually can reap the rewards of all that social energy you put out there? Christine, you're shaking your head. You want to go first for me? While Christine's coming on, if the audience has questions for us, go ahead and type them in, and we'll get through as many as we can.
Yeah.
Sorry, Christine. Okay.
No, totally fine. Tactical things there. Like I just love everything you're saying. But my biggest tactical thing would be, if you've done it once, don't stop. Keep doing it. You know, like it's not a one and done thing, right? It's the cumulative. So if you have done that, you've made a connection at an event. I go find the people on LinkedIn, so I connect with them right away on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And then you can, with your connection, you can add a message, so you can personalize it and say, hey, I really enjoyed meeting you at XYZ. Just wanted to connect us together today. And or you can, follow them and send a message through the message service system, and you've opened up that door of communication. So sometimes it's simple as like, I really enjoyed the drinks we had together on Friday night. Thanks for the great conversation. But now you have that open that door of communication. So like you were saying, all of a sudden I have a question, or like when Chris was by herself, all of a sudden you have a question about, I don't know, a tech or something in your job, and you're like, oh, I bet so-and-so could help me. But that door of communication is open. So now you can quickly message them and say, hey, quick question for you. Like, this is what I find myself in. What do you think I should do? Or do you know somebody who could help me? Because it's not like a fresh, cold initiation. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think it's a really nice next step. And then if you keep going to events, you're going to see the same people eventually, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see them again.
Mm-hmm. Great. Qeyana, what do you have sort of a standard operating procedure for how you follow up?
Definitely, like you said, email is great. LinkedIn, which is so funny. I'm a late bloomer with LinkedIn. I'm sure everyone started way back in 2010 and 8. I started in 2019. So I'm a late bloomer with LinkedIn. So I never think about going that route. But if I meet someone and I didn't get their business card, and if I remember like, oh, they work at Kraft Kennedy, but I know Caesar, let me reach out to Caesar. Or ask someone else in my circle, have you met Christine? Do you know her? I'm trying to reach out. So see, hopefully my inner network has that connection, but if not, make a note and say, you know what, the next ILTA event, I'm gonna try to find Christine and then connect with her again if possible. But yeah, definitely follow up with an email, a phone call, something to let them know, like, hey, like the message said, Christine said in her message, great meeting you, let's connect again soon. What about coffee? Or I didn't get to connect right away after event, but hey, the next event, are you gonna be there? I would look forward to seeing you there, something like that. So that person know, like when they walked away, you were engaged, you were really, I'm saying into, but really just engaged in their conversation and appreciate the time that you spent with them, and they know that it wasn't just a waste of time or just someone to be blowing hot air with, because especially when it comes to vendors, you know, I'm talking to you because I want the cool water bottle. Like, so that you really made some type of connection with them, and hopefully the relationship will, you know, continue on, and you can be someone that can refer them or connect them with someone else in the future.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So, Chris and Caesar, I'm going to give you first pick for a final tip or a final thought that we might want to send people away with. I know I have already learned something new today, so I really appreciate it. So I hope everyone's already coming away with something new. And if not, what do you have for them, Chris?
Well, I don't know how new it is, but I think the biggest takeaway for me is that, well, can I share another little story, tiny little one? One of the ways that I met people when I was traveling was through dating apps, not for the purpose of dating them. And I made a point in the very beginning of saying, I'm not interested in dating. I'm just looking for somebody to go to coffee with or go to a movie with. And it took all the dating pressure off of getting to know somebody, and we had marvelous time. So I can kind of apply that here too, where if you let go of the pressure to make this into something and just relax and get to know the person as a person and just, you know, share a conversation, again, it's just easy, and then it's a genuine connection.
Really great point. Caesar, what do you got for me?
All the pressure to close us out, huh? There's a lot to take out of this today, and I hope someone or the people that have joined have taken something, whether you're an introvert, an extrovert. And if I had a final goodbye to be, just start somewhere, start small. Don't be afraid. I know that I say that easily as an extrovert, but even introverts have vast, deeper connections than I have out there. And I wish a part of me was an introvert, because from what I know from the introverts I do know, that their network is so deep because they take the time to actually build it, where an extrovert is like just all over the place sometimes. So just start. You know, once you get the ball rolling, then you're gonna blink your eyes and be like, holy cow, I have this large book of connections with people that I actually value their time, whether they're a business partner, a friend, an associate, or a colleague in the space. And then you can tap them and be like, hey, I need to do A, B, and C. Do you know somebody? Or, hey, are you attending that ALA or ILTA social? Great, I'd love to see you there. And then to Chris's point, that just knocked your tension of being like, oh, now I have to go network. It's like, no, I've been in this space before, and I'm going to go see some of my great friends or connections there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Qeyana, Christine, anything you want to put in the room before we close down?
Yeah, I love what Caesar said about starting. And if you don't know where to start or have an association, maybe you have a social committee in your organization. Maybe you have a charity committee that's one afternoon in the year they go out and do something that you could join. Just put yourself out of your everyday role and to meet new people. It could be new people in your organization, but they're people you just don't come across every day if you're in a large organization. And as well, I would say I love the point that Chris made about smiling. Chris, you said this, and something about walking into the room and just smile. Oh, this is huge. If the only part about being fake I will ever approve of is smile, even though you don't feel like it. You could be scared inside, but just smile, and then you won't, like, people will want to, you'll be approachable. Yeah, that's my last tips.
And I would just, you know, echo what everyone else has said already. You know, be friendly yourself going into this room, into an event. If you have a buddy, connect with a buddy that will help you navigate through the networking opportunity, or if not, find someone who is kind of, I don't want to say the life of the party, but someone who seems to be a little outgoing and maybe introduce yourself to them and they can possibly, introduce you to the next person, and definitely find you a network, an association, a circle of friends or colleagues that has the same interests and goals as you. That way you do have that group there to kind of get you connected, get it started, and then eventually can introduce you to other folks and help you grow your network. So just start small, and then it will flourish as time goes on. Trust me. I know I went from not knowing anyone to, as
Knowing the whole city.
I know everyone, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out there one time, and I'm sure everyone here will agree. If you have nowhere to start, tap one of us, and we will help you start. This is very easy. You came here to learn something about networking, like 5 great people, and they come from every different group that you can find, from a vendor to partners and the firms and associations. So start with us. You can't go wrong if you start here. Well, at least start the conversation.
Absolutely. I love it. And the only thing I will add, because it's the kind of thing I have to remind myself of, is to just be kind to yourself through the process and recognize that the only thing you need to be when you walk in that room is human. And you don't have to be something, or you don't have to offer something. You're simply attending and participating. And we very much appreciate everyone attending and participating with us today. I would love to get 90 emails of people who want me to introduce them to someone. I know Caesar feels the same way. I think the smile on the faces of Qeyana, Chris, and Christine give me enough confidence to say that they agree. So we'd love to hear from you, whether it's about networking or something else. And hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Take care.
So much.